18 hours ago, we lost a chopper carrying a cabinet minister and his aide.
What do we gotta do? One-day operation. We pick up their trailer, the chopper, run them down, grab those hostages, and bounce back across the border before anybody knows we were there.
In 1987, a team of elite commandos walked into a Central American jungle on what they thought was a routine rescue mission. Within 72 hours, most of them would be dead, hunted by something that wasn't supposed to exist. Something that could see heat signatures through dense foliage, turn invisible at will, and skin its victims alive as trophies. Predator became one of the most iconic action films ever made. Arnold Schwarzenegger at his absolute peak. Carl Weathers bringing genuine military intensity. Jesse Ventura carrying an 85-pound minigun like it weighed nothing. A creature design so legendary that it spawned 5 sequels and counting. The movie made over $98 million worldwide on a $15 million budget, and basically invented the military science fiction genre. But here's what most people don't know. The version of Predator you saw in theaters almost didn't happen. The original creature looked completely different and was played by a completely different actor who got fired after 2 days. Key scenes were filmed twice with different levels of gore. And some of the most famous moments in the film only exist because of on-set disasters that forced the crew to improvise. These are 21 hidden details you completely missed about Predator. Number 21. The entire film was born from a joke that almost nobody took seriously. After Rocky IV came out in 1985, critics started joking that Rocky Balboa had beaten every human opponent on Earth. So the only fighter left for him to face was an alien. Screenwriters Jim and John Thomas heard this at a Hollywood party and thought, what if we actually did that? But instead of Rocky in a boxing ring, make it Special Forces commandos in a jungle hunt. They wrote the script in 6 weeks and sold it to 20th Century Fox for over $250,000. Predator was greenlit before the script was even finished. Number 20. Jean-Claude Van Damme was the original Predator, and his 2 days on set were a disaster. Before Kevin Peter Hall put on the iconic suit, the studio hired Van Damme because they wanted an athletic performer who could do martial arts moves. Van Damme was only 5'9", which worked for the original suit design that looked like a giant red insect with a dog-like head. The problem? Van Damme hated being trapped inside the rubber suit in the sweltering Mexican jungle heat that hit 110 degrees. He kept complaining that the creature looked ridiculous. He demanded his face be shown in the movie. He refused to do certain stunts. The studio fired him after 2 days and paid him his full contract just to make him leave. Number 19. They redesigned the entire creature mid-production and almost killed the budget. After Van Damme left, director John McTiernan looked at the footage and realized the insect suit looked terrible. It looked like a cheap Halloween costume, not an apex predator from another world. So they shut down production for 5 weeks, flew everyone back to Los Angeles, and hired special effects legend Stan Winston to completely redesign the creature with only 6 weeks to build it. Winston sketched the famous mandible mouth design on a plane flight after James Cameron told him he always wanted to see a creature with mandibles that could open up and reveal a second mouth. That airplane napkin sketch became one of the most recognizable movie monsters in history. Number 18. Kevin Peter Hall replaced Van Damme specifically because of his height, and it changed everything. The new Predator design required someone massive to make the 7-foot-tall creature believable. Hall was 7 feet 2 inches tall and had just finished playing the friendly alien in Without a Trace. Hall's size made Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was 6'2" and weighed 240 pounds, look small in their confrontation scenes. Hall brought genuine grace to the creature's movements, making it feel like a thinking hunter instead of a mindless monster. Sadly, Hall died in 1991 from AIDS contracted through a blood transfusion during surgery after a car accident. He was only 35 years old. Number 17. The famous Predator clicking sound came from a children's toy. Sound designer Steve Johnson was trying to figure out what the Predator's voice should sound like. He was playing with a toy that made clicking noises when squeezed. Johnson recorded it, slowed it down, layered it with guttural growls, and created that iconic clicking laugh. That $5 toy became one of the most recognizable creature sounds in cinema. Number 16. Arnold Schwarzenegger's cigar in the helicopter was a problem. They were filming in a real helicopter over the Mexican jungle, and the rotor wash kept blowing the cigar out. The smoke you see in the final film is actually from a hidden smoke machine under Arnold's seat. He's just holding an unlit cigar the entire time. Number 15. Carl Weathers and Arnold Schwarzenegger's bicep handshake created an entire internet meme decades before the internet existed. The scene where Dutch and Dylan grip hands and flex their absolutely massive biceps while staring at each other has become one of the most iconic handshake images on the internet, used millions of times in memes about making deals or showing respect. But that moment wasn't in the script at all. The two actors were genuinely trying to outmuscle each other on set during breaks, squeezing hands and flexing to see who was stronger. Cinematographer Don McAlpine saw them doing it between takes and immediately told McTiernan they needed to film it and make it part of the movie. That completely improvised moment of two action stars at their physical peak trying to prove who was the alpha became a GIF and meme used literally billions of times across the internet, starting in the 2000s, and it's still going strong today. Number 14. Jesse Ventura's minigun was completely real, weighed over 85 pounds fully loaded, and could actually kill everyone on set if it malfunctioned. The GEM 134 minigun that Blaine carries and fires in the film was an actual functioning military weapon on loan from the United States Army. Ventura had to carry this 85-pound gun through the jungle in 100-degree heat and humidity while wearing full combat gear and pretending it weighed nothing, that his character was so strong it was like carrying a rifle. The gun could fire up to 6,000 rounds per minute in real life. For the scene where Blaine says, "I ain't got time to bleed," and mows down half the jungle, the special effects team rigged over 800 explosive squibs in the trees and foliage, each one timed to explode in perfect sequence to simulate bullet impacts. They only had one take to get it right because resetting all those squibs would take 2 full days of work. Ventura nailed the entire sequence on the first take, firing blanks while the squibs exploded all around him in perfect sync. Number 13. The mud that saved Dutch's life almost killed Arnold Schwarzenegger in real life. The famous scene where Dutch discovers that covering himself in cold river mud hides him from the predator's thermal vision is one of the most iconic moments in the film. But filming it was genuinely dangerous. Arnold had to lie in actual jungle mud for hours while they set up lights and camera angles for multiple takes. The problem? The mud was filled with bacteria, parasites, leeches, and biting insects. Arnold developed a serious skin infection on his arms and back that required heavy antibiotics and almost shut down production. The production medic examined him and said he was genuinely lucky it wasn't worse, that jungle infections can turn deadly within days in that climate. The mud also smelled so horrifically bad, like rotting vegetation and animal waste, that crew members refused to stand near Arnold between takes. He had to shower for 20 minutes with industrial soap just to get the smell off his skin. Number 12. Shane Black was cast as Hawkins specifically because he was rewriting the script on set and the studio wanted him nearby. Black was already a successful and expensive screenwriter who had just sold Lethal Weapon for over $1 million. The studio hired him to do uncredited rewrites on Predator's dialogue to make it feel more natural and less generic action movie. To keep him on set in Mexico where he could do emergency rewrites quickly whenever scenes weren't working, they gave him a small acting role as Hawkins the radio operator. That's why Hawkins tells the dirtiest jokes in the entire movie. Black wrote all his own dialogue and made himself the comic relief character who tells inappropriate jokes, so he'd have an excuse to stay close to the production and be available for script work. Black got paid twice, once for acting and once for writing, and spent most of his time between takes sitting under a tree with a typewriter doing dialogue rewrites. Number 11. Hawkins's death scene was filmed twice with completely different levels of gore because test audiences couldn't handle the original version. The first version they filmed showed the Predator grabbing Hawkins and ripping his arm completely off at the shoulder in extreme graphic detail with blood spraying everywhere, covering the leaves and Billy's face. Test audiences in 1987 said it was too extreme and too graphic, that it pulled them out of the movie and felt gratuitous. Several people walked out of test screenings during that scene. McTiernan agreed and reshot the entire death scene with quick cuts, shadows, and clever camera angles so you never clearly see exactly what happens to Hawkins. You just see him get grabbed by something invisible, hear him scream in absolute terror, and see blood hit the jungle leaves. The implied violence was actually far more effective and disturbing than showing everything in explicit detail. Number 10. The Predator's glowing green blood was made from crushed glow sticks mixed with KY jelly, and the recipe was kept secret from the studio. The creature's blood needed to be bright enough to show up on film in dark jungle scenes, but also look organic and liquid, not like paint or dye. The special effects team experimented for weeks trying different combinations. They finally crushed thousands of glow sticks, extracted the glowing chemical inside, mixed it with KY jelly personal lubricant to give it the right thick viscosity, and added food coloring for the perfect toxic green color. When the Predator gets shot, and that bright green liquid sprays everywhere in the film, that's literally hand lotion mixed with the glowing chemicals from children's glow sticks. The mixture cost about $3 per gallon to make, but looked like it cost thousands. They made over 50 gallons of it for the entire production. Number 9. Bill Duke's character Mac was supposed to die much earlier in the film, but Duke's intensity on set changed the entire script. In the original screenplay, Mac gets killed by the Predator shortly after his friend Blaine dies, maybe 20 minutes into the movie. But McTiernan loved Duke's raw intensity on set and kept rewriting scenes during production to keep him alive longer. The famous moment where Mac shaves his face with a giant knife while covered in camouflage paint, staring into nothing and threatening to cut himself, was completely improvised by Duke in a moment of method acting. McTiernan kept the cameras rolling because he realized Duke was creating a character having a genuine mental breakdown in real time. That unscripted scene made Mac one of the most memorable and disturbing characters in the entire film, even though he has relatively little screen time compared to the others. Number 8. Arnold did his own stunts for the waterfall jump scene and almost died when he hit the water wrong. When Dutch jumps off the cliff into the river below to escape the Predator, that's actually Arnold Schwarzenegger doing the stunt himself, not a stunt double. The waterfall location was over 60 feet high, dropping into a river with a rocky bottom. Stunt coordinators specifically told him not to do it because the river below had large rocks hidden just under the surface that could kill him instantly. Arnold insisted he could handle it and refused to let his stunt double do it. He jumped, hit the water at the wrong angle, and blacked out for several seconds underwater from the impact. A safety diver had to swim down and pull him to the surface unconscious. When Arnold came up coughing and gasping for air, McTiernan ran to the river edge and asked if he was okay. Arnold said he was fine and actually wanted to do another take to get it perfect. McTiernan said absolutely not and refused to let him jump again. They used the first jump in the final film. Number 7. The Predator's thermal vision was created using a completely experimental camera technique that had never been done before in film history. In 1987, thermal imaging cameras were massive military-grade equipment that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars and were classified technology. The production team couldn't afford one, and the military wouldn't loan them out for a movie. So cinematographer Don McAlpine had to invent a completely new technique from scratch. They filmed the actors performing their scenes normally with regular cameras. Then they printed each individual frame as a high-contrast black and white photograph. Then artists literally hand-painted heat zones on each photograph with different colors, using red for the hottest areas and blue for the coldest. Then they re-photographed each painted image with a special camera. Then they composited those images back into the film frame by frame. Every single frame of thermal vision you see in Predator was hand-painted by artists working 16-hour days. That's why the thermal shots have such a unique artistic look compared to modern digital thermal effects. It's because they're literally paintings. Number 6. The Predator's ship was built practically as a full-scale set and barely fit on the soundstage, almost destroying it during construction. For the final act, where Dutch fights the Predator near its crash site, the production team built a complete full-scale Predator ship interior on a massive soundstage back in Los Angeles. The set was so enormous it filled the entire soundstage with only 3 feet of clearance on each side. and they had to remove part of the soundstage wall to get some of the set pieces inside. All the glowing panels, alien controls, and weird technology were practical effects built by hand using lights, mirrors, and mechanical switches. The self-destruct sequence at the end used over 500 individual light bulbs wired on electronic timers to create the cascading countdown effect you see where lights blink faster and faster. They could only film the self-destruct sequence one single time because resetting all those timed lights manually would take 8 hours of work, and they didn't have time in the schedule. Number 5. Arnold's famous line, "Get to the chopper," was almost cut from the movie because studio executives thought it sounded ridiculous. Test audiences and early screenings said the line sounded funny with Arnold's thick Austrian accent. It became an unintentional joke during test screenings where people would repeat it and laugh out loud. Studio executives wanted to redub the line with a different actor's voice, maybe someone who sounded more American. McTiernan refused and fought with the studio, saying Arnold's delivery was absolutely perfect because it sounded exactly like what a panicked soldier would yell when he's terrified and trying to save his men. The studio eventually backed down. That ridiculous line became one of the most quoted movie lines of all time and launched literally 1,000 memes that are still going strong almost 40 years later. Number 4. The Predator's laugh at the end uses Billy's voice from an earlier scene, and most people never notice it. After Dutch defeats the Predator and it activates its self-destruct device, the dying Predator plays back Dutch's voice asking, "What the hell are you?" through its mask recorder. Then it mimics Billy's distinctive laugh. That laugh is actually actor Sonny Landham's real voice pulled from earlier in the film, when Billy laughs at one of Hawkins's inappropriate jokes during the helicopter ride. Sound designers went back through all the footage, found that specific laugh, isolated it, and digitally inserted it into the Predator's mask playback to show that the creature had been studying and recording them the entire hunt. It's a tiny detail that adds this creepy layer showing the Predator was always watching, always learning, always recording everything they said. Number 3. The nuclear explosion at the end was filmed in slow motion with real explosives that nearly destroyed the set. When the Predator's self-destruct device detonates and you see that massive mushroom cloud expanding through the jungle, that's not a miniature or a digital effect. That's a real explosion filmed at extremely high speed. The special effects team detonated over 2,000 pounds of real explosives in the middle of a massive set built to look like dense jungle. They filmed it at 400 frames per second, using specialized high-speed cameras to create the slow-motion expansion effect you see in the film. The heat from the explosion was so intense it melted 2 of the 4 cameras filming it, completely destroying them. The cameras cost over $50,000 each. They got the shot perfectly on the first take, which was lucky because they only had enough budget for one attempt. That single explosion sequence cost the production over $80,000 to film. Number 2. The final shot of the helicopter rescue was filmed at a completely different location, months after everything else wrapped. When Dutch gets rescued at the very end and the helicopter flies away over the jungle canopy, that aerial shot was filmed 3 months after principal photography had completely finished. The jungle location they had used for filming in Mexico had been completely cleared by logging companies who cut down all the trees. The producers needed a final helicopter shot but had no jungle left, so they flew a small crew to a nature preserve in Hawaii that looked similar to the Mexican jungle and filmed the helicopter flyaway there. If you watch carefully and compare the vegetation, the plants and trees in the final helicopter shot look completely different from the rest of the movie. Different species, different colors, completely different jungle. Number 1. Kevin Peter Hall played both the Predator and the helicopter pilot at the very end, and it's the most beautiful hidden detail in the film. In the final shot of the movie, the camera slowly pushes in on the helicopter pilot's face as he stares down at Dutch covered in mud and blood, this warrior who just survived the impossible. That pilot's face you see? That's Kevin Peter Hall without the Predator suit, playing a normal human being. Director McTiernan thought it would be poetic and meaningful to have the same actor who played the monster be the human who saves Dutch's life. It's such a tiny moment that probably 99% of people never notice or think about, but it creates this beautiful symmetry in the storytelling. The Predator, this alien hunter, stalks Dutch through the jungle trying to kill him for 2 hours. And then the same man who brought that terrifying creature to life is the one who carries Dutch to safety and saves him. It's McTiernan's way of showing that the actor and the monster are separate, that Hall was a gentle giant playing a role, not the killer he portrayed. So, there you have it. 21 things about Predator you probably never knew. From Van Damme's two-day disaster to hand-painted thermal vision, to toy sounds becoming iconic. The movie that almost fell apart became one of the greatest action films ever made. Predator could have been a complete disaster. The original creature looked laughable, the jungle was brutally hot. Actors got infections, scenes needed reshoots. But through talented people refusing to accept mediocre work, they created something legendary. It gave us a creature design so perfect that Hollywood's been trying to recapture that magic for 40 years through 5 sequels. They keep making Predator movies because none of them have matched what that first film did in 1987. If you want to see how Predator influenced modern filmmaking, or which sequel actually understood what made the original work, those videos are on screen now. And if you made it this far, hit subscribe. I break down production secrets like this every week. I'll see you in the next one.